Text your dirty tax secrets to Tatiana. Don't worry, she won't tell anyone. Everyone's got 'em, right? Tatiana Sawyer is a tax and business strategist, CPA, and MBA who makes your life less taxing. She helps to reduce your taxes legally so that you make and keep more of your money. Get her second opinion discovery without leaving your current accountant. She'll identify missed opportunities and recommend a cure. Visit TatianaSawyer.com to learn more.
Traci W. Pirri, LCSW-S, graduated with her Master's of Social Work in 2001, earned her LCSW in 2003, was EMDR trained in 2018, and became an approved consultant in 2023. She owns Hope for the Journey, a group practice in Austin, Texas that specializes in sexual trauma recovery and uses EMDR as its main modality. She has advanced training in dissociation and internal family systems, as well as many other modalities. She's an adoptive mother of 2, loves to travel, and can easily nerd out on a spreadsheet.
Hi, I'm Casey, and right here beside me is Kelsey. We are licensed professional counselors, mothers, entrepreneurs, and besties. We know firsthand what it's like to wake up one day and think, how in the heck did I wind up here?
Through our own journeys of self-discovery, we found that joy is something that has to be pursued through internal work. Now we are on a mission to help women from all walks of life understand themselves more so they can have real lasting joy.
Join us every Thursday to hear fun and insightful interviews with experts who can point you toward self-discovery and fulfillment.
We have a special treat for you today. Traci, you've been on the podcast before, right? Mm-hmm. Why have I thought you've been on the podcast before?
I knew that we hadn't talked to Traci yet, but welcome, Traci.
I'm happy to be here.
So our listeners will have already heard your bio, but I always like to just kind of get it from the guests themselves. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about you, where you're located, what you do, and what you feel compelled to share with us today.
Well, I am the owner of Hope for the Journey. It's a counseling group in Texas, and we help kids, adults, parents, and partners to heal after trauma, specifically sexual trauma. But we also help with anxiety, depression, all that sort of thing. We have offices in Austin and in Round Rock. That takes up a lot of my time. I also have a practice myself, so I see a few clients. It's much smaller than it used to be, just to give me time for everything else. I'm an EMDR-approved consultant, so I do EMDR a lot and help other clinicians to do EMDR, particularly working with dissociation. And then I love training clinicians. We also offer trainings for other kinds of helpers. Like we have a trauma sensitivity training for physical therapists and just a whole bunch of different kinds of trainings. And we're organizing and trying to get them all so that they can be offered at really low costs for people that want online training. Because I just don't think enough people really understand dissociation and trauma. And when that's there, it really gets in the way of finding joy and happiness and fulfillment in life. And so once you know it's there, it can be fairly not easy, but straightforward on how you go through that. But if you don't know that it's there, it creates a lot of havoc.
I think you're right. I think trauma isn't talked about. It is talked about, but I think that can get in the way if you don't have a clear picture of what's actually going on. I was just talking to my supervisor before this about diagnosing, and we were looking at like through the trauma lens and the trauma umbrella, and she's like, maybe that's it, Kelsey. I think you're right on the money. So yes, I totally agree with you. I do like how you said in our form that we filled out, you said you had some awakenings, just how much self-care I actually need as a trauma therapist and a group practice owner. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, I started Hope for the Journey because I felt like people, particularly working with sexual abuse and sexual trauma, most of the people that were doing that were green and thrown into the lion's den without any training, without any real support. And by the time they started getting actually good at what they were doing, they were burned out and getting out. And I wanted a place for therapists to come and get really good support on self-care so that they could continue to do this, because there's a lot of therapists that have a burning desire to help with this population or with this problem, and it's widespread. And so I really wanted to do it in a way that people wouldn't burn out. And so you would think that I would take very good care of myself. But of course, it's easier to tell other people what to do than to do it ourselves sometimes. And I would say that I have always kind of focused on, I've been pretty good about setting limits and grown my group slowly on purpose because I didn't want to get overwhelmed, and I say no and I do all those things. But I've realized recently that I needed more, way more every day, and not like self-care, like I'm stopping at a certain time necessarily. That's important, or I'm taking a bath or whatever. But more, it needed to be really specific to what works for me, in that I was going to have to force myself to do it often. And then it needed to be like in between things, right? So like after every session, at the end of every day, it couldn't be something that I just pushed off into the weekend, because what I was finding was that by the weekend, I was just totally exhausted and then didn't have any energy to make plans or do whatever. So I think it's the type of self-care and then how often that it surprised me.
That reminds me a lot of you, Kelsey, because like she's one of these people that cracks me up. Because now I'm upstairs and her office is downstairs, and so I don't see her at all during the day, really. But whenever I was down there and she was down there, I knew when her sessions were over because I would hear this whoosh of like the chair wheels, like she's like bull in a china shop, like, oh, here she comes. And then 2 seconds later, it's boom, 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 like down the hall, because she has to like physically get up and talk to people and do something in between sessions, right?
I can't function without it. Like if I just sit down and I like work and work and work, I am not the best version of myself, and I know that. So I need like some kind of outlet. And also, like, I resonated with you, like putting things off until the weekend. I'm a big person that does that. And Casey knows as well as I do, I'm not opening my computer on the weekend. It ain't happening. Unless we like are really dedicated to something.
I was just curious for you, Traci, like, were you one of those people who kind of got stuck into that box of like, okay, I'm just going to like put my head down. I'm going to focus. I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and this. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to do something relaxing because that's what you're supposed to do, or that's what makes you the most productive. And did you just kind of get in that trap, or?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a 3, an Enneagram 3. So I'm a doer and I like to check my boxes, and I'm really high energy and I'm highly attuned to everyone else's emotions. But 3s, it's a little bit more murky for us and what's actually going on for us. And I don't like it. So I've got to kind of force myself to do those quiet things, but it needs to be active for me. And so I think what I was doing was not really thinking about what I needed to do to reset, right? Like, for instance, so my husband he's a 9, and he needs a lot of time of just like chilling out. That's great for him. Chilling out does not make me better as a human being, as anything. I will go into the dark places and I will be like problem solving, which is just my version of worrying. I need to like get out energy. I need to be out in nature. I need to be maybe with people, maybe alone. I need to do different things, right? I need a variety of different things that kind of, I don't know, bring me energy. And so I was kind of opting to what everybody else in my family needed or what I could do within that, instead of being like, well, cool, you want to do that, peace out. I'm going to go and do this thing on my own. And I've just been doing that, and it's been great. Like, I'm inviting them into it, and sometimes they opt in and sometimes they don't. But like this weekend, I didn't have anything to do. And I put on my personal Facebook, I was like, listen, anybody that's local, I'm up. And these are the kind I wanted to go hiking or kayaking, which is as a 3, that's so vulnerable. Like, to admit that I didn't have something to do, it felt terrible and I was sweating bullets. But I did it, forced myself to do it. And one of my cousin's wife reached out, who I love. She's just great. And she and her mom were going hiking, and then we changed to kayaking because none of the boys wanted to go, which was just fine for all of us. And we had the best day. It was beautiful. We like found this hidden restaurant that was over the water. We like went uphill and didn't think that we could, like upstream. It wasn't uphill. Let's be fair. It's Texas. We were going upstream and didn't think that we could make it. And we did. And we got to this beautiful waterfall and it was just lovely. Everything was lovely. But it was because I allowed myself to be like, cool, my husband wants to watch stupid basketball all day. Go for it. My kids are doing this and this and this. They can get rides. I'm going.
So your husband's more when he's a 9. He's like a very chill person. Like, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to do nothing and just kind of absorb life.
Yeah. 9s tend to need a lot of like time to just be quiet and like disconnect because they're so like focused on problem solving everybody else's problems and making sure that everybody else is okay. And so he's a high energy 9, but he needs to like chill and he needs to be away from my energy because I'm a lot.
Well, I think that's a really good point that you bring up because, when you think of self-care, our minds tend to go all to kind of the same stereotypical places. And what they need to care for themselves is different based on their personality type, their energy levels. Speaking of that in a relationship, that's also interesting to me. And I think it's kind of funny, but when Kelsey first started taking me home, like to Wisconsin, to her family, it killed me. It was exhausting because I have to be alone. Like I could go be around people all day long, but I have to be able to come back to this place where there's nobody in my space. That is the only way I will function. And we didn't have that up there in the beginning. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be bad because I'm not going to be able to go back home with her. I mean, especially when you're there for 5 or 6 days and there was like, you're just right there, like immersed with everybody the whole time. Cause that's how they self-care. I'm the opposite. I mean, I can do it, but like, please just no one talk to me for a couple hours. Like, let me go lay down, let me whatever. And then, so we had to bring that up and be like, this is going to be a problem. So we were able to at least talk about it. And then they made us a little room. And now when I'm starting to get super overstimulated or exhausted, I'll just go up there for an hour or 2. And then I come back and I'm just perfectly fine, but like Kelsey, even on vacations or wherever, she's like, let's go, 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 go. And I'm like, I just want to sit here. Just let me sit here.
Yeah, we just got back from the mountains and we went both my kids are adopted and we have very open adoptions. And so we went skiing with my daughter's birth mother and several of her family members. And it was great. It was fabulous. But we're skiing all day and with everybody all day. And then we were all staying in one big house. And so we had our own room and that sort of thing. But I need time alone outside. And so I would go and I'd get home and I would be exhausted and I would go and like take a bath or just find a reason to be in my room alone, but it wasn't the same. I almost got like foggy feeling by the end of it. I knew I needed to go like for a walk or something like that, but it was dark. There's snow everywhere. It's cold. Like I'm tired in my body, but it's so interesting because when I would just rest my body, it actually wouldn't help because I wasn't actively, I can just feel the energy in an entire space of all of those people and it just drains me. And so I needed to be out by myself. So the last day I just skied by myself quite a bit, but even that was like iffy because there's still people around everywhere. So I came home and then I just spent all day doing yard work outside. And again, you would not think that yard work would be like relaxing, but it was wonderful. I was by myself outside and using my body. And that's what I needed the whole time. So that's weird.
When in your life did you kind of realize what you needed as far
like
as
now?
Just now?
I mean, I think I've been learning for a while, but I think, over the last, so Casey invited me on a retreat like maybe a year and a half ago. And I was not going to spend the money on myself. And in fact, you were like, just come. I've got an extra spot. Just come. And I was like, I'm not going to spend the money on an airplane ticket. What was I thinking? And so I almost didn't go. And I went. And I think it's been since then, I've just been like realizing what I need, how to ask for it, and pushing myself to do those things and hone it down and hone it down and hone it down over the last maybe year and a half. And it's been while I've been trying to like step out of doing all the things in my business and really delegating, and which as a 3 is really hard for me. And it's been great. Good growth, kind of both ways. But it's been hard. It's been hard to say what I need.
I feel like we had a conversation in the past about your daughters, right? You have 2 daughters?
I have a daughter and a son.
A daughter and a son. And then your husband, and I think I remember you telling me something of like, they want to do all of these things, but sometimes I realize I need something different. How often, and I'm just reflecting out loud, like how often do females specifically, or even males as well, we just do what everyone else says we're supposed to do and don't really like have that awakening inside of us of like, maybe that doesn't serve us in the same way that it serves them.
And add on to that, you're a counselor or helper, caregiver of some sort. And then add on to that, you're a people pleaser. And add on to that, maybe a little bit of edge of perfectionism. And
well, and you're not showing up as the best version of yourself as a mother, a wife, counselor, a boss.
Yeah, all the ways that I imagined letting people down when I just asked for what I needed have not happened. And in fact, I feel closer to everybody in my family. We're arguing less. It's much better.
I'm curious what your experience is with the connection between the lack of self-care to like chronic illness and autoimmune disorders. What are you noticing there?
Yeah. Well, I think women tend to internalize and men just stereotypically tend to externalize at least more, right? I don't think that that's hard and fast. And I think it's probably changing culturally quite a bit as gender roles are more fluid and that sort of thing. But speaking for myself, I internalize all of this stress, right? And I'm not in tune to it. And so there's nowhere for it all to go. As a trauma therapist, I'm very, very attuned to the physical energy of the people that I'm in association with. I'll go to church or to a group of large people, and if something emotional starts coming up, I will start yawning and start because there's people dissociating in the space and my body's responding to it. So I think that if I'm not actively finding ways to let go of that energy, then there's no place for it to go. And so, of course, it's going to impact my body. And if you just start talking to nurses, doctors, therapists, we have way higher levels of mental health issues, but also physical health issues, particularly all this autoimmune stuff that's going on. And I mean, I have an autoimmune disease. Most of my staff does. So, it's just one of those things that we've got to find ways to get rid of it, or it's going to start piling up and it acts like a toxin in your body.
Yeah. I didn't even make the connection, but after I had opened my group practice in 2015, I think by the second year, by 2017, I was already diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And at that time, I still didn't even I sort of made the connection to high stress and like the inflammation and all the other things that I was experiencing, but still not even, and maybe it was that I knew, but I just didn't want to know because I needed to keep going. But it's so common. You're right. I hear so many people, especially in high stress jobs, that are struggling physically. And I guess, when you think about the book, The Body Keeps Score, of course, like it's in there. Like, I don't know why we ever thought that it's not, or how that those two things are not connected, but people still, I think, challenge us on that.
Well, I think autoimmunes are when it's not like if I eat something rancid, my stomach will be upset immediately. If I a little bit more delayed would be if I don't drink enough water, I'll start getting headaches. These are really quick reminders that our body gives us. But when you're a helper, oftentimes you don't feel so bad in your body. If you had asked me 2 years ago if I was stressed to the point where it was making me sick, I would have said no, right? Like I would have acknowledged that I had stress, but I wouldn't have had any awareness that I was at the place that I was at. And even now, right? Like I ended up going on a last minute retreat in January, and it was because I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm just going to get to this next place. I'm just going to finish this one last piece. And finally I was like, hell no, this is so stupid. I need to get out of here. And I took off to Big Bend, and thank goodness I did, because it was exactly what I needed. And everything shifts when I do that. That's another thing that I need is I need to take these like get out of town trips and with movement and get out of town away from my family, because I feel so obligated. I'm constantly thinking about them. They're not doing this to me. I'm doing it to myself. But if I'm not literally like separated from them for an extended period of time, I'll be thinking about what they need.
I think we're the opposite. We're like, can we just stay home? Can we just not do anything?
Yeah, like I need a staycation.
Staycations are not good for me. Like I'll get all kinds of stuff done. And so a stay weekend is fine. Like, I can go outside and do yard work, and that's great. But like when it's building up, I need to get out and away, because I'll just keep doing my list and I'm not actually like stopping and doing that piece of slowing down and letting the feelings go.
Casey, I don't know though that you'd actually do a staycation. I'm just going to call you out here. Like we have to be like on a ship in the middle of the ocean on a cruise for you to do nothing.
I can't. I struggle. Like, well, for example, yesterday, Kelsey she's like, I have bags under my eyes. I'm so tired. And I'm like, yeah, we look like shit. Like we need to rest. So it's like, I don't even know, 3, 4 o'clock. She's passed out, sleeping. And I'm just sitting there, just like wide awake, just like, what am I going to do? And I wait a little bit. I'm like, she ain't getting up. I'm leaving. So I just left, went to work, went to the office. I didn't do like work, but I have a really hard time sitting still if I'm not asleep, like I just can't. I'm not like a lounger on the couch kind of person.
Oh, that's like my favorite pastime.
No.
Well, see, this is very similar, right? Like I can do it for a short amount of time. Most of the time I fall asleep and take a little cat nap. Mm-hmm. And then I wake up and I want to be moving again. So maybe you're more similar to me. And Kelsey, of course, you're going to be more similar to my husband, because both of y'all are nice.
I think so. I think like now, trust me, my self-care is very much, I have to sleep. If I feel like I'm getting sick or starting to get sick, if I can just go to sleep, chances are it will fix itself. Like that's just how I've always been. But as far as just sitting on a weekend, I'm like you. Yeah, Tracy, I am. My mind will go to a dark place. Like I don't.
Now listen, you all, I can't sit still. Like I am not somebody. Casey, I've said this to you before. Like, can we just get out of the house? Like, I cannot sit here any longer. After a whole day, I'm done sitting with myself. I'm done with that. I'm very extroverted. I'm ready to go out. Even if I talk to somebody at TJ Maxx, I'm having a good time. So I think it's in small increments, but I can't do that longevity. Like
your one day is probably like an hour tops for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Maybe that's true of Casey too.
So I guess the takeaway here, tell me, what do you think, Tracy, is that it's okay to embrace your type of self-care. And in fact, that's really what you have to do to feel that transformational. And I'm still working on it. I think most people, and you, I'm sure it's always going to be something you're working on, but you really don't feel that true, just like release until you get the kind of self-care that you really need for your body.
Yeah. And I think it changes over time. And I think it changes situation to situation, right? So one of the things I've learned is just to try it and then check back And if it's not working out the way that I thought it was, to switch. I don't have to be so rigid in what I'm going to do. I think having a lot of variety and a lot of kind of flexibility with yourself. And then I think the other thing is to communicate that to your partner, right? So to make sure that it was important to me to make sure that my husband wasn't feeling like I just didn't want to be around him. And he, once we talked about it, it was totally fine. And he understood it. Actually, again, took out some of the tension in the relationship that was just kind of floating underneath there. I think for each person is different. It's going to change. And so you have to really let your body lead in telling you what's helpful.
I think it takes some awareness around yourself and really those moments that you feel like this is the best feeling ever. Lean into that instead of just avoiding it. I think a lot of times we avoid those good feelings because we are so much over functioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're living either in the future or in the past. And most of us are living in one or the other, or we go from one to the other and miss the middle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's huge. And when I was really starting to practice more self-care, the things that I found myself craving or wanting to do were things that as a child I would have done, like painting or going for walks or going down to the lake, or it was always something that was connected to nature or creativity in one of those.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. That was a piece of your book that I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a good place to start. But I think that sometimes people have a hard time kind of translating between what they used to like to do as children and what they want to do as adults. And so I think sometimes there's a gap there. So I'll find sometimes I'm working with clients that are like, I used to do this, but they can't find the adult equivalent. And so sometimes people will need a little bit of help with just making that jump.
That's a good point. So why don't you take a second and tell the listeners what you have going on in your world and anything that they might be interested in?
Well, so we are in the process of getting organized with all of our trainings. I mean, we do live trainings too, but been trying to start recording them so that we can have on-demand trainings for people. We want a lot of accessibility. So if anybody's interested in having that, the best thing for them to do is just to shoot us an email and we'll put you on our mailing list so that we can give you updates on it. And they can do that at hello@hopeforthejourney.org, O-R-G. And then if anybody's in Texas and they're needing some good counseling, we just hired 4 new clinicians. So we actually have openings, which we don't a lot. So super excited. We've got a growing team and really excited about these new recruits. So people can find out more about us at hopeforthejourney.org.
Well, thanks for joining us, besties. Traci, it was so lovely having you on the podcast, and we can't wait till next time.
Oh, and 2 things. One thing is it's really weird that we're not sitting in the same office, Kelsey. We can't read each other as well because I can always tell when you're about to say something or whatever. That was one thing I just wanted to point out. And then the second thing is just a little promo. If you have not listened to the Mental Health Entrepreneur hosted by our friend Rachel Harrison, you should totally go and check that out. It is a great podcast. She was the one in the book who was talking to me about grapes. Listen to the trailer now and then head to our show notes to find the link and subscribe.
What if our communities had more creative options to support mental wellness? This is a question that I've been exploring as someone who's been in the mental health field for 25 years. As an entrepreneur myself, I've been having these conversations with people in government, with people in the nonprofit world, with people in the business world, and people in the mental health world. And here's what I know. We don't have the solution as it stands right now. All of the resources we have, all of the treatment options we have are full and overflowing. There are some creative new ideas happening here and there, but as a whole, we have more people that need support for their mental health than can get that support. And so it led me to this question of what do we do? I don't have the answers. But my goal is to talk to other people who are doing creative things in their community to address mental wellness. And when I think about creative, innovative ideas, I think of entrepreneurs. They are the people that think out of the box. They are the people that do more with less. And so this podcast was started out of the idea that by having conversations with people that are innovating in the arena of mental health, we can all gain some inspiration. I hope that you'll join me each week as we drop a new episode, talking to entrepreneurs in all different areas, doing creative things to support mental wellness in their communities.
If you're enjoying our podcast and would like to hear more from us, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts so we can keep making great content.
Talk to you later, besties.